You ever buy a piece of land thinking it's your sanctuary, your escape from the world, only to find out someone's got other plans for it? That's what happened to me. Jack Harlan, a guy who thought he'd left the chaos behind after 30 years fighting wildfires out west. I was 55, battered lungs and all, when I moved to this little farmhouse in Willow Creek, a quiet corner of Virginia where the maples stretch tall and the air smells like freedom. At least it used to. I'd inherited the place from my Uncle Nate, a gruff old soul who loved two things: silence and tapping syrup from the trees. He left me 20 acres of untouched maple forest, the kind of place where you can hear your own heartbeat, where my dog Rusty and I could walk at dawn and feel like the world hadn't changed in a century. The land butted up against a shiny new neighborhood called Crestwood Estates, all manicured lawns and stone driveways, run by an HOA that seemed harmless at first. My deed was ironclad, the property lines marked clear as day with state tags. I figured I'd fix up the house, rebuild Nate's old sugar shack, and live out my days growing peppers, keeping bees, and letting the forest heal what the fires had taken from me. But peace, I learned, is like kindling. It doesn't take much to set it ablaze. It started small, like most trouble does. One crisp fall morning, I found a flyer taped to my mailbox: Crestwood HOA. All pastel colors and buzzwords about building a vibrant community. It listed plans for a garden, a kids' trail program, and something called green space enhancement that made my gut twist. I ignored it. Flyers don't mean much. But then the knocks came. First, a guy named Greg, all smiles and khakis, stopped by to admire my woods. Then a lady named Ellen invited me to a barbecue I had no interest in. And then, enter Vivian Caldwell, HOA president, clipboard queen, and the kind of woman who could smile while telling you your dog's too loud. Picture her, mid-50s, polo shirt starched to perfection, voice like a chipper chainsaw, always ready with a rule she invented on the spot. Vivian showed up with a plate of brownies and a question: had I ever thought about sharing a few acres for a community park? Rusty growled low, and I just stared at her, letting the silence do the talking. This land stays wild, I said, plain as dirt. Her smile didn't budge, but her eyes went cold. She scribbled something on her clipboard and said, "Unused land can attract trouble. Jack, kids. Campfires. You know." I watched her sleek SUV slink back down my gravel drive, and I knew right then this wasn't a neighborly chat. It was a warning shot. Over the next few weeks, things got weirder. A camera pole popped up just past my property line, blinking red in the dusk. Pink spray paint marked one of my oldest oaks, 15 feet inside my land. Then surveyors showed up, neon vests and all, muttering into radios about future development. When I confronted them, they said the HOA had hired them and I should have gotten a notice. I hadn't. So I drove to their fancy office by the Crestwood pool, deed in hand, and laid it out for Vivian. "Your people are on my land. Get them off." She sipped something fruity from a tumbler, fake surprised, and said, "We're just clarifying boundaries. Jack, clarity's important." I leaned in. "My deed's clear enough. Keep your flags out of my trees." Her smile slipped. Just a fraction. And I smelled smoke, not the kind from a fire, but the kind that comes from someone who thinks they own the world. I started documenting everything, every camera, every footprint, every pink ribbon tied to a branch. I've fought fires long enough to know trouble starts small but spreads fast. I painted my boundary trees neon blue, swapped my old gate chain for a heavy-duty lock, and called my lawyer, Maria Torres, a woman who'd once made a logging company cry in court. She told me to keep records tight. We'd need them. And then, one Sunday morning, with coffee steaming on my porch and the maples glowing gold, I heard tires crunching gravel. Vivian's SUV rolled up, HOA logo slapped on the door, with a guy in a cheap suit beside her, clutching a manila envelope like it was a bomb. "Jack," she chirped, all teeth and no warmth. "This is Paul Reed, our community planner. We've got a proposal for a shared campground just 3 acres along your south border. Good for you. Great for the kids." Paul handed me the envelope, but I didn't open it. "No," I said, tapping my deed. "This land's mine, not yours." Vivian's smile tightened. "The community has needs, Jack. It's selfish to hoard all this." Selfish. The word hit like a spark on dry grass. You've got cameras on my land, surveyors sneaking around, and now you're preaching about my forest. You're trespassing. Stop. Her voice turned to ice. We could reclassify this land for public use county rules. Jack. Neglected property doesn't stay private forever. I raised an eyebrow. Neglected? You mean the sanctuary I've kept alive for years? Paul stared at his shoes, but Vivian just climbed back into her car, leaving the envelope in my hand. I burned it in my fire pit that night, watching the flames eat her words. But Vivian didn't quit. A week later, I found a sign nailed to my tree, Future Crestwood Nature Park, Spring 2026. Orange tape marked a trail right over a hawk's nesting spot I'd watched for years. I ripped it down and drove to Sheriff Tom Wiley, an old buddy who still used a paper notepad. He shook his head at my photos. "It's civil for now, Jack. But if they build anything without your signature, it's criminal." 2 days later, I caught Vivian in my South Grove with a pack of teens and a guy revving a chainsaw. "Trail maintenance," she shouted, waving a fake map that redrew my land as shared green space. I snatched it from her. "You touch one more tree, I'm calling the cops." She smirked. "Do what you have to." That night, I sat with old photos of Nate boiling sap, Rusty chasing squirrels, the forest under snow, my sanctuary, my fight. I wasn't letting her win. I dug into records at the town office, HOA permits, land filings, even drone maps. What I found made my blood run cold. Vivian had pushed a secret HOA vote to explore my land's acquisition, using a loophole that let them post notices in their neighborhood, knowing I'd never see them. She'd filed a plan calling my forest underutilized, ripe for public access if I didn't complain within 90 days. She'd played me from the start. I was done playing nice. One October morning, Rusty's barking woke me. I grabbed my boots and followed him to the South Grove, where 2 bulldozers and a backhoe were tearing through my trees. Maples, some older than my granddad, lay broken on the ground. Vivian stood there, walkie-talkie in one hand, coffee in the other, directing like she owned the place. I marched up, fists clenched. What the hell is this? She didn't flinch. We're ahead of schedule. Jack. County-approved shared access. I stepped in front of a bulldozer, forcing it to stop. You've got no consent. No permits. Get off my land, or you'll be in court by Monday. She waved a paper. We've got authorization. I laughed, cold and hard. You'll regret this. She clapped her hands at the crew. Back to work. I called Tom, who showed up fast, but said it was still civil I needed a judge. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked the forest with a flashlight, filming every stump, every scar. I wasn't just fighting for land, I was fighting for what it meant to me. Maria drafted a cease and desist, and we delivered it to Vivian on site. Her face twitched when she read it, but she didn't stop. So I called an old contact from my fire days, Ranger Claire Nguyen, a no-nonsense forest inspector. I sent her everything: photos, videos, maps. She walked my land the next day, noting every violation. This is private conservation land, she said. They're way out of line. She slapped a stop work order on a tree. But by evening, it was gone, replaced with another HOA flyer for a family campout. I was livid, but Claire told me to hold tight. The state was moving in. Then came the campout. I smelled smoke at dawn, thin and sharp. Rusty growled, and I grabbed my phone, racing to the clearing. Tents, a blazing fire pit, kids running wild, and Vivian playing camp counselor. I started recording. You're breaking a state order, I said. This fire's illegal, and you're endangering kids. She smirked. Our bylaws allow it. I pointed at the flames. When this forest burns, you'll blame your bylaws. Then chaos hit. A fawn bolted through, panicked, knocking over a tent and scattering embers. Kids screamed. A boy fell, and Vivian's cool cracked. I stomped out the sparks, shouting, "Get out before someone dies." They packed up fast, and I sent the footage to Maria and Claire. Maria called it gold. We're going public, she said. I thought of that fawn, those kids, and said, do it. The video hit Channel 8, and by Monday, it was everywhere. HOA's illegal campout sparks chaos. Vivian's face, barking orders over flames, was all over the news. The HOA office got swamped, and Greg showed up at my gate, hands up like he was surrendering. The board wants a deal, he said. Vivian's out. I shut the gate. Talk to my lawyer. Claire called next. The state was filing charges: environmental damage, fraud, the works. She walked my land with Director Owen Blake, who called it reckless. They mapped the damage, found a dead fawn, and confirmed a collapsed fox den. I felt sick. But Claire said, "You fought back, Jack. That's what matters." In court, Judge Lena Carter didn't mince words. She hit the HOA with $87,000 in restoration costs and Vivian with a $12,000 fine and a 5-year HOA ban. "You endangered lives and land," she told her. Vivian sat silent, her polish gone. Outside, I told a reporter, "I fought for the forest, not revenge." The state replanted saplings, fixed the creek, and locals sent letters, one from a kid who fell, now dreaming of being a ranger. I taped his note to my workbench. "The forest's healing, and so am I." Vivian's gone. Rumor says she's in a city condo, out of schemes. I tap syrup now, just like Nate, and send a bottle to that kid. The maples stand tall, scarred but strong, like me. I put up a sign, "Harlan's Grove, protected by Jack." This land's got a voice, and it was heard. What would you do if someone tried to take what's yours? Drop a comment, I'm curious. And if you've got a story like this, share it. Let's talk about what's worth fighting for.